Yeah. So first off, the Wall Street Journal probably a month ago picked this story up, but Bloomberg came in with some new information. It was super popular, and I think the reason is they used the word subpoena in it. And typically, the word subpoena is more correlated to crime than something different. But what happened is the stock tanked. And what a lot of people said was, "Oh my gosh, there's this correlation." The reality was the stock didn't tank because of this article. It tanked because of worries about the economy. So I just had to put that out there out on the table. So it was funny. I got a call. Hey, can you be on CNBC in 5 minutes? And I did a phone in on John Fort's show after the bell. And then the morning after, I did a Yahoo Finance talk about it. So let me air this out. So first of all, a little background. I've been involved in tech antitrust for a long time. I was a key witness in FTC versus Intel, AMD versus Intel, and very active in the stuff that happened with World versus Qualcomm, Apple versus Qualcomm, and not that makes me a lawyer. I'm not, but gives me at least enough.
Glad you clarified that, Pat. Not a lawyer.
Enough experience to talk about this. I was interviewed or grilled by Intel's lawyers for the Texas state maximum of 24 hours. But anyways, first of all, it's not illegal to hold a monopoly. It's illegal to use monopolistic powers to harm consumers. And typically the bar for market share, market definition is important, is 50%. And NVIDIA has 90+% of the data center GPU market, and its AI, which is huge for society. So yeah, it just sends off red flares. No surprise here at all that the DOJ is investigating NVIDIA. Now, what are some of the illegal things that I'm speaking hypothetically? That could be tying, which could be hey, if you buy GPU plus my networking, you can get a better allocation or a better price. Retaliation, again, hypothetically, if you buy AMD, I won't get you the samples early or ship the volumes that you want. Exclusionary rebates are also illegal. Again, hypothetically, if you go with AMD, I'm not going to give you the same pricing. Pricing has to be volume based. That is the legal way to do it, or blocks, or the way you segment that. And why don't investors care? Because these things take 10 to 15 years. I mean, check out Microsoft, AT&T, IBM, Google, Intel, literally, this thing kicked off in 2005, FTC in 2009, EU in 2009 is still fighting the penalty payment. Okay, 15 years later. So these are infectious, right? From a global standpoint, meaning I fully expect the EU, Japan, Taiwan, probably Australia, they get emboldened by the EU. Oh yeah, and the CMA in the UK.
There's a filing this week, Pat, in like Texas too. Like,
oh yeah,
not the same, but like kind of related.
Yeah. So final points here. These do slow companies down, right? You have to have a lawyer in important meetings about pricing, about strategy, about allocation. Correspondences need to be reviewed, or lawyers are copied on it. What happens is you copy a lawyer, have a lawyer in a room, it goes under attorney-client privilege, and it can't be shared. And it slows stuff down. Now, it slowed Microsoft down big time. They missed mobile, they missed social, they missed a lot of inflection points. I just don't see that happening with NVIDIA. Jensen has command control versus a distributed management style. It's going to slow the company down, but I don't know. We want to argue. I did a Fortune interview. It's going to slow it down 5%, 1%. When you're going twice the speed of the rest of the industry, I don't know if it matters. Final comment. I was asked about the competitors. It's AMD and it's Broadcom and Intel in 25, 26, but I don't think this has an impact on it, short term particularly.
Yeah, I think the first clarification point you made was really important. You have a day when the market's selling hard. You have a company that's maybe seen as running too far too fast on its price, some catch up in terms of the overall digestion period of AI and when that's going to really hit. And then, you had it sell. It did sell faster than the Mag 7 names. So, there was an opportunity when they were selling 2%, 3%, 1.5% off, and NVIDIA was off 9%, that maybe this DOJ probe had created a bit of a selling pressure. I did more interviews than probably I spent more time on that than I spent on IFA because I had so many calls. So many people wanted to
crazy, man.
Well, listen, I think what happened was back in April, I wrote a Market Watch op-ed. So I started this process. You had to see, Pat, you and I have been involved in so many of these things in just the last few years, whether it's been Apple, Qualcomm, Samsung, Huawei, of course, the various DOJ and FTC probes across different, M&A deals. And, when a company's doing this well, you just have to expect it to be scrutinized. You have a policy position right now in the government that big tech is really bad. You're seeing, they're getting emboldened by the wins they got with Google. That's at least pushing that forward. Apple's App Store has been consistently under pressure. Probably the most realistic antitrust case that exists, although they've made much less progress than I think they should. One of the great quotes I heard on the All In Pod was, that's because Apple's popular. People like Apple, so they don't want to push as hard as, say, a Google, where they're pushing harder. But here's the thing about NVIDIA, Pat, is and I'm being candid. You and I, we have, we like to say the word channel checks. But we have real channel checks. We have real conversations through the channel, all the way up and down, from the OEMs to the distributors, service providers, and even to the enterprises that are consuming this stuff. And listen, it's just it's a lot of hot soup is what I'll call it. Kind of just comments of things that you're like, well, that could be. We don't put a lot of things in writing, or deals are not, you hear things about deals not being described in writing. You hear things about, company A is going to potentially work with company B, and company A was mad about that, so they gave more product to company C. Again, nothing's proven. I mean, this is all just wild speculation. Bottom line is, is it happening? And this was my comment in my tweet, my extended tweet was it could be. It absolutely could be. And now it's on the FTC, the DOJ to actually, well, first of all, Pat, do they even have a probe? Is this even going on? Because we've heard.
Well, here, Dan, let me be, there is a probe. It always starts with investigations, whether we would call it a subpoena or a forced, and everybody's on document retention,
Yeah, my point though is how far this. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. How far this is and where it's at, and how official this has become versus sort of semi-official versus, like you said, document retention versus them coming into offices and having sit-down meetings. I mean, I think they're talking to the channel. That's my guess. I think where a lot of this is coming from is they're talking to people who are buying it, consuming it, implementing it, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And and you talked about consumer hard, Pat, but the other part of antitrust that's so important is competition. And so you obviously, because I've always said along the Apple Store, for instance, is the consumers aren't harmed. They feel it's safer, it's more secure, and it's easy experience. But the competition has gotten smashed by it. And that's why I've always said that that's such a problem. In this particular case, it's look, people that are implementing and utilizing NVIDIA, they've built on it, they've developed on it, they like it, it's integrated, it's a very closed sort of architecture where everything works together. But when you have an AMD Broadcom or an Intel, or you have these homegrown options, they're making entry really hard. And you mentioned the Intel thing. I see a lot of parallels to the Intel thing. They're going to have 90+% of the market. They're going to lock this up in the very earliest stages of AI. And then when people say, hey, I want to write programming to a different piece of hardware, they're going to be like, well, unfortunately, it's in a container that's running on a piece of hardware, that's running on a thing of software that's using a proprietary library, and you can't move this. or it's going to be really expensive to move this. But Pat, I do see this continuing. It's going to be an ongoing conversation, something that will entertain us for many, many months to go. And I like this topic. I don't, it's fun. So we'll keep talking about it. We'll see where it ends up.